Okay. And of course, Lily is here to join me. She'll be
Yeah,
helping with
Lily,
the
cute.
lesson. Um, so this is Pablo.
hmm
Anything you want to talk about before we look at the video?
I suppose just a general observation, his behavior is really um, calming down towards me. And I think it might have been, how I had to go through that whole process about the rugging, where basically he was in charge and he was telling me what's on and what's not, quite uh, obviously. And it was getting to the stage where it was becoming potentially dangerous, like he was turning his bum a little bit. Would get quite snaky, would, take a bit of a lunge for a bite type of thing. Anyway, so I kind of had to get a little bit firm to say, no, you're going to have your rug on. Because obviously I wanted to rug him because of his arthritis and whatnot, well, potential arthritis, I presume.
Yeah.
Um, and he's golden now. He's like a puppy dog.
Yeah.
He just he just kind of stands there and it's like, okay, and like I do it very gently. And if he ever kind of raises his head, I just wait so that if there's any signs of him not being too sure, I don't push through it. I just kind of wait and take my time. And he's very chilled.
Perfect.
Yeah,
No, and I wouldn't
yeah.
worry about you being too firm. Like some people, sometimes when we're too soft or we feel sorry for them,
Mm,
it's like they take advantage of that and they go,
that's
yeah, yeah, I couldn't
yes.
possibly. I just couldn't possibly. And then you go, come on.
That's me in a nutshell. Yeah, yeah. And my horses. So anyway, we had to overcome that, and I think we have.
Great.
Um, he's a lot better to deal with. It's been quite rainy on and off. So yeah, haven't been able to do 4 sessions per week. Sometimes, normally 3. So it's
That's good.
I mean, I'd like to do 4 if I could, but yeah, 3 on a bad week. So yeah, we're progressing. I'm really interested to see what you think this time because I feel like he's using his hind end quite differently. He's
Great.
taking, hopefully it's not swinging, but he's taking a lot bigger steps. You know how he used to be Mr. Shuffle Man,
Yep.
little incy bitty steps. So I'm just going to close my door because my puppies are going crazy.
Okay.
I'll be 2 seconds.
I'm just going to get this up and running.
Decided to go wild in the house.
Whoops, it kind of started without me there. Let me hit pause. Okay. So his behavior or attitude is better with you. And how is he stopping as frequently or is that getting less frequent?
That's getting less frequent. I mean, he doesn't always have steady rhythm, but definitely less stopping.
I wouldn't expect that. Like the first sign that he's getting more comfortable would be at least maintaining the walk without halting for, ideally for the whole session, other than, of course, if they're pooping, I let them stop. But if he's not pooping or peeing, then if he's getting more comfortable, he'll just kind of motor through the session. And it won't be,
Mhm.
sometimes it'll be very slow, sometimes it'll be quicker, it won't be rhythmic, but the not stopping is the first big sign of progress.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that
So we
even,
can,
sorry, go ahead.
oh, sorry, you go. I was going to say we're now doing half hour, whereas previously 10 minutes was a stretch.
Oh, excellent.
Mm.
And he's staying in motion most of that half hour.
Mhm.
Excellent.
I can't remember if he stops a few times in this session. We'll soon see. But generally, he's not too bad, apart from eating, pinching grass. But
Yeah, so far I go, okay, it's a legit excuse if he's trying to grab a bite of grass or has to have a poop. But it's the stopping because he just seems so exhausted that you want to,
yeah,
that he should be kind of working through. And
yes.
even though his movement looks almost a little bit stiffer in the hindquarters,
hmm
but it's probably because he's using them better.
Yeah,
And
he
so,
does. And he loosens up a little bit, it seems. Like as we
mhm.
start off, he's a bit like this, and then through the session a little bit, he seems to get, well, I don't know unless I'm looking at it wrong, but I think he gets a little bit more um free with his movement.
Yes, and that's kind of what I would expect to see closer to the end of the session or over many sessions. He'll look less and less
Hmm.
stiff, but his posture is pretty good. Like he's keeping his neck long. It's not as low as it was before, and it's not as high or kind of shortening as it was before. And you can see it's like the energy is starting to move through his body with just a little more consistency instead of like a little bit of movement and then kind of that pushback, like I need to stop, I need a break.
Hmm.
He's just sort of
Yeah.
he's just kind of motoring, gently
Hmm.
motoring.
Yeah.
Except now I have an itch, then I need to eat grass. But that's
Yeah.
very different than when you started and he would just shut down and not even
Hmm.
move. Like this is
Yeah,
just
exactly.
very different.
And there were a lot of flies around that day, so they were, bugging him a little bit.
Yeah, we're
Something else
just, go
yeah,
ahead.
something else I was going to mention as well. I've asked my barefoot trimmer to organise some poly shoes for me.
Oh,
Can't
uh-huh.
remember the term. Just for his front feet, because I don't know, I could be wrong, but in the paddock, I mean, I know that that's really soft ground. He's still doing very small steps with his front legs, so maybe it's nothing to do with his feet. I don't know, but in the paddock, so we're on gravel, and he gets around like little incy bincy steps, and I
Hmm.
kind of thought, I wonder if his feet are slightly sore. I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to trial it and see if it happens, if it helps at all.
I think that's a really good idea because he is on soft ground and he's heavy on the front legs. And so
Mm,
that's not going to change quickly. He's kind of
no.
in the process of changing that, but he does
Mm-hmm.
look a little bit ouchy on the fronts,
Mm-hmm.
like he might be a little bit tender-footed.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, well, let's put it this way. While they're developing their balance, and they are heavy on the forehand, which is kind of unavoidable at this point. He's doing the
Mm-hmm.
best he can to control his body
Mm-hmm.
weight, but that's going to take some time.
Yeah.
So putting some, I think they're called plastic shoes or poly shoes or something.
Yeah.
If you're opposed
Yeah.
to steel shoes, that's what a lot of barefoot people are doing. And there's even
Mm.
ones that you can glue on that they use for
Yeah,
laminitic
they
courses.
yeah, they're glue-on ones. They kind of slip on. Well, there's two options that my trimmer showed me. But because he's not great at standing still for long periods of time getting his feet done, we've opted for the ones they kind of slip over the front of the hoof.
Hmm.
And they're a lot easier, a lot quicker to put on, I suppose. They still need to be glued on, but they're not as tricky as the other option. So yeah, I'd
Yeah,
be interested to see how he goes with them.
I think that's a great idea to just try. And if he's more
Yeah.
comfortable, I mean,
Yeah.
he's obviously more comfortable in general because it can be a little bit of a double whammy that maybe part of the reason he wasn't moving is if he's a little bit like, does your farrier say he has good depth of sole or does he have thin?
So a little bit thin, a
Yeah.
little bit thin.
So if he's a
Yeah.
little bit thin-soled, that could have been part of the reason he didn't really want to move forward. And so
Mm.
if the shoes make him more comfortable, because all the shoes do is kind of add a little bit more height so they're not wearing the soles down. They have a chance to grow more
Yeah.
sole with shoes on, and it just
Yeah.
supports the
Yeah.
integrity of the hoof wall. And so I think
Mhm.
that's a great idea. And if it makes him more comfortable, then you should instantly see a difference in his willingness to stay forward. Like, even though
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
already gotten more forward, it would get even a bit better if there is a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of discomfort on his front feet. When you put the
Yeah.
shoes on, he should be happier to keep moving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's definitely liking his sessions. Like they're all waiting at the gate to come out and do it. I mean, I know that they get a little bit of graft before we go in there, bit of a bribery thing. So that could be it too. But no, he's keen to come out and do it. And the other day it was so cute. I'd finished the session and he gave me a little nicker. Oh, that's
Oh, I
cute.
love the little knickers. I have
Yeah, that's so
I,
sweet.
there's a few horses, and my horse Prima was the first one that did that. And as all I really do is long rein her at the walk at her age and
Mm-hmm.
condition. And
Yep.
after like if I haven't worked her like through the storm, nobody got worked really for about a week. And then she
Mm-mm.
kept following me around the yard. And at the end of our long range, she nickers if she likes it.
Oh,
I have
cute,
several
isn't
horses
it?
that do that. And it really does warm the heart because even though you can see he's a bit stiff, he's struggling, this is not easy for him.
Mm-hmm.
When you get the
Mm-hmm.
nicker, it's like you know you're on the right track.
Yeah, yeah. And he was quite pleased with himself, I think. Which is, oh,
Yeah,
that's cute.
it's like getting a little fist bump at the end of the
Yeah,
session.
yeah. Yeah.
So I really like how well, and he's concentrating, like he's just so focused the entire time and
Mm-hmm.
really trying to figure out those hind legs. And you can kind of see it's not really just the leg. It's like that stiffness goes right into the lumbar. And he's starting to
Mm-hmm.
work through that. So I wouldn't expect him to
Mm-hmm.
look less stiff, but before he looks less stiff, he's going to maintain, first of all, more forward. And secondly, start to kind of find his own rhythm. He'll still
Yeah.
explore a little bit of fast and slow, but it'll get more and more rhythmic as he gets a little bit loosened up back there, works through some of the arthritis and gets more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable.
Mm. And his head's not as low this time round, is it?
Yeah, that's what I noticed first thing is that he is keeping the neck long, but
Mm.
he's got enough, he's got a little bit better control with his back and hindquarters. So he's not just, nose in the ground wanting to stop.
Mm.
Really, that's kind of the landslide of body weight going forward. And
Mm-hmm.
he may go low again at another evolution of his balance, but it's kind of nice
Mm-hmm.
to see him carry his head a little more level right now.
Mm.
And the thing you can start playing with, which I see you do here and there on this video, is going a hair slower and letting the reins get a little bit more tension in them. If
Mm-hmm.
you think that's going to make him stop, then it's not time. Or if it does make him stop, then it's not time. But you could
Mm-hmm.
experiment with, like you did with Stitch, having a little bit more tension in the reins so that there's not
Mm-hmm.
as much um
Slack. Yep.
yeah, just not as much bouncing in the reins, that there's a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
feel so that the channel becomes a little bit clearer for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he definitely is one that likes the support. So if it doesn't
Yeah.
if it doesn't encourage him to halt, then play with giving him a little, like just slowing your body down some more so the reins
Yep.
have a little bit more consistency in them.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah, good
this a
idea.
big change of direction?
I was doing some serpentines with him, so we've just started doing these.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And he didn't stop. That's
No.
fantastic because the
Yeah, he's living.
turns are more likely if we use turns versus straight lines, all horses slow down. And so sometimes when we don't have a lot of forward to work with, we can
Mm-hmm.
lose forward on a turn. So that was quite good. And he actually looked slightly less stiff on during that turn than he did on the straight line. So that
Mm.
was a very good idea. And if he can maintain forward, that's another thing you could sort of play with is a few serpentines.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he's ready for the circle, is he yet? I
No,
think we just
mm-mm.
come to a big stop.
Yeah, he's not quite ready for the circle because even that little serpentine slowed him down a bit. But it's
Hmm.
interesting that on the straight lines, I noticed the stiffness in the right hind a lot more obviously than I did on that turn.
Hmm.
And so sometimes what the benefit of turning is that it helps horses automatically kind of place the hind leg a little closer to the center, a little bit more forward,
Hmm.
and helps them
Hmm.
stabilize it, which is why they all slow down. But in his
Yep.
case, if you play with it and he doesn't stop and you see the legs look a little bit less stiff, that that placement of the hind leg during the turn may help him kind of use the joints a little bit better. And maybe that's why I'm
Hmm.
not seeing the stiffness of the leg during the turn compared to the straight line. And
Yeah, okay. Yep.
you can let him guide you. Anytime he loses forward, abandon ship, whether
Hmm.
if you increase the tension on the long reins and he loses forward, never mind, try it again later.
Hmm.
If you
Yep.
try to put in a serpentine or two and if he slows down, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if he starts halting, that's him telling you
Yeah.
it's too much.
Too much.
Hmm.
Yep. Hmm.
But he may need to go even a little bit slower to start bending the joints in the hind leg a little more. And so slower is fine. Um, but that tendency to halt is where we know we're asking a bit too much.
Hmm.
So this is fantastic. And it looks like spring is sprung. The trees are getting more leaves.
Yeah. 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 It's a nice time of year when it's
Yeah.
springtime.
And we just got our first cold front for the season. We don't really have
Oh,
seasons. We kind of have hot, 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 cold front. And then it's
right.
and then it's
Okay.
winter.
Uh,
But this is fantastic. So any other questions? Because those are the only two things I would start to
yeah.
add. It's
Yep.
fantastic feedback that he's looking forward to his work sessions. Because if you think back, before you were doing this kind of work with him, even if you took him out to graze before you had a work session, did he ever look forward to the work sessions?
No.
Yeah, because he was
No.
struggling physically. And
Yeah. Oh, everything we did was in conflict, without a doubt. Absolutely everything. So it
yeah,
was
so the little bit of
yeah, it was a
hand
nightmare.
grazing for the work session, don't give that too much credit. It's really what you're doing with him and what a great job you're doing with him that
Hmm.
he's such an interesting horse because he really tells you
Yeah.
this works for
Hmm.
me, this doesn't work for me. And I think
Hmm.
he's kind of funny that he was giving you private lessons on self-confidence until you nailed it. And then he's like, okay, I'm good. Like,
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, he's like, how long is this going to take you, woman? Like
yeah,
I've had him now for what is he? I think he's 11. It's either 11 or 12 this year, but I've had him since a 2-year old, so a long time. And we've had a challenging relationship up till
yeah.
late.
But this
Because
is just,
he's very opinionated and yeah, can
he
be
is.
quite big. Yeah.
He's a very smart horse and he
Mm.
knows how to protect himself. So the beautiful part of difficult horses, especially just his unique type of difficulty, is that when I love these horses because when we find the appropriate work, even if we can't see what's going on internally, they just
Mhm.
automatically become more cooperative, they're happier,
Yeah.
the fighting stops, things just get better. And it's horses
Yeah.
like that that really guide us through training methods
Yeah.
and theory. Because,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can have the greatest theory on the planet, but if it's not working for the horse, what good is it? And it
Yeah.
sometimes isn't that we have the wrong theory, but our application or the techniques we're using or the timing or whatever is just inappropriate. And,
Hmm.
Pablo's the kind of horse that goes, hang on, that's not working for me.
Yeah.
I need to change something or
Yeah. Yeah,
change
exactly.
change what you're doing entirely or
Hmm.
change how you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, he
And
doesn't let anything go under the radar. Do you mean? Like it's no,
yeah.
everything's got to be spicko, otherwise he'd be telling you about
And I think you'll find that Stitch becomes more and more like that. Because
it.
the other thing I find is that when we start working with the horses, really, authentically helping their coordination and their mind, they get more opinionated. They become more
Mm-hmm.
generous. Like they're more
Hmm.
generous. They resist us less. They work with us. They cooperate more. But they also
Yeah.
get a little bit clearer in
Yeah.
like, yes, let's do that.
Probably,
No, let's not do that.
yeah. Happier to communicate, aren't they? Because they know that we understand it,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
that's a better way to put it. They become more communicative with us. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Rather than shut down or just say, okay, I'll do what I'm told. Well,
Yes,
he would
and
never do what he was told, so here we are.
and the biggest difference I see in Pablo, especially in this particular session, is that emotional defensiveness is gone, which
Hmm.
when he was really kind of refusing to move way back when, starting with hand walking, it was very hard
Hmm.
to tell what percentage of that problem was physical and what percentage of that problem was sort of mental and emotional.
Hmm.
And now
Yeah.
I look at him and I go, 100% this horse is in the learning frame of mind. So
Hmm.
every other little challenge he's giving you is related to his physical capacity, just his physical balance.
Yes.
And especially after you
Yeah.
sorted out the blankets and the barnyard behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. And the brushing, I can brush him now.
I was just going to ask that if he's better for
Yeah.
brushing.
Yeah. Yeah. He likes to be brushed fairly softly. I think he's quite sensitive on his skin. So he likes a soft brush, not too hard.
Hmm.
Otherwise he gets a bit annoyed. But no, he's really good.
Yeah, and that's almost always the case. A little bit was bluster, but there was a little bit of
Hmm.
truth under there that he probably is very sensitive.
Hmm.
And the better he does in work, he'll become more supple and probably be less sensitive. But some horses are
Hmm.
just skin sensitive and they just don't
Yes.
like firm massages or, aggressive
Mm.
brushing.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, he's
But
doing really well.
this is
I mean, it's a long
fantastic.
road, but we knew, I knew it was going to be this, and it is what it is, isn't it?
But do you feel now that there's hope for Pablo, that he's not a hopeless
Oh,
case?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I just think like how like people need to know this stuff, don't they? Like for all of the and I'm not putting down any of the instructors I've had because they were great and
Hmm.
I've done some great things with them. But it's such a missing piece that no matter what I tried to do with Pablo, we just went round and round in circles because it all came back to his behavior because he wasn't comfortable or was in pain or whatever.
Right.
But that was never kind of recognized or maybe recognized, but really not knowing how to address it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a
So
lot of
this,
times like a lot of times traditionally, we'll know the horse is on the forehand. We'll know the horse is out of balance, but there's such a limited number of tools and strategies that a horse like
mm,
Pablo, you would have to create so much discomfort to get a change that he would just shut down.
yeah,
He would be like,
yeah.
no, that's not going to work.
Yeah. So I suppose a very good rider, like a very balanced rider, maybe not for Pablo's case because he was quite severe, wasn't he? But does a very balanced rider kind of get the same effect by making them straight, I suppose? Does
So
that
the
work that way?
rider, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So a rider who, like the difference between what I would call an elite rider, professional or not,
Mm-hmm.
an elite
Mm-hmm.
rider has incredible self-control over their own balance, regardless of how the horse moves. As we're
Yeah.
learning to ride and the way we're trained to ride, we're sort of dependent. We're given instruction as if we were all riding a theoretically balanced horse, and none of us are riding a balanced horse. So we don't
Yeah.
learn how to adapt in order to keep our own balance when the horse loses their balance. So
Yeah.
kind of a moderate, even advanced level of riding, we can sort of hold a position, but what's really going on is the way we use our body has a dynamic influence on the horse's ability to balance or not balance. So the
Mm.
rider is kind of constructive or destructive. And
Yeah.
even a rider who can maintain their balance but not help the horse get balanced is still
Mm-hmm.
going to help the horse balance. And when you
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
a balanced rider and you know what kind of aids to give, what you're looking for, how to guide the horse, then that's a
Mm-hmm.
very effective and efficient way to help horses balance. And so when
Mm.
either one of your horses is ready to ride, that's just going to be a continuation of what you've learned to do on the ground. And
Mm-hmm.
you will have lots of time when they're sort of strong enough in their own balance just to carry a rider. You still have a lot of time to work on your own balance without anything
Mm-hmm.
being too dramatic or challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the more we focus on our own balance, even just walking around on him at this speed, the more we're having a positive influence on their balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really kind of works out beautifully. And right now, Stitch and Pablo don't yet look sort of strong enough
No, definitely not.
to do it with a rider. But
Mm.
everything that you're learning by working on the long reins is going to transfer directly to riding. So you're actually
Mm.
working on your riding while you're doing this groundwork.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I can feel that like keeping with the horse. Yeah, it's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, because synchronizing with the movement is like you discovered, it's not really your feet and your arms. It's sort of controlling your torso speed to
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
the feel on the reins. And then you feel the
Yeah.
tiniest little difference between the left and right rein. And
Hmm.
just what you're able to do now on the long reins with both of the horses, you would be surprised at how much your riding has improved as soon as you get back
Mm.
on.
Yeah. So I haven't ridden since probably November last year. So that's going to be interesting when I do finally get back on.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see how Stitch is doing. But there's a couple of mile markers, and this is the thing with this type of training. I have no time frames. I can't even
No,
begin
no,
to predict time frames
no.
because the important part is that the horse builds the balance and the stability to a certain
Hmm.
point. So instead of
Yeah.
time frames, I kind of have mile markers. Like
Yes.
the
Makes
first
sense.
biggest mile marker that you've just passed with Pablo is he has not stopped in a serious way this entire video.
Mm.
And we're
Yeah.
coming up on 26 minutes on this 30-minute video. And he has,
Hmm.
other than his munch of grass, his poop,
Yeah.
oh, I have to itch my leg, but it was
Yeah.
easy to get him going again. And he really is
Hmm.
motoring now through 30 minutes without shutting down and having to take a rest at halt.
Hmm.
So that in itself is a massive mile marker.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I think the next one would be sort of, is he happy if you get a little more precise with a little more feel on the reins? And can
Mm.
he manage to start doing some more serpentines and changes of
Yeah,
direction?
yeah,
And then with Stitch,
yeah.
the next mile marker is, can he stay forward on a circle, both directions, for 5 to 10 minutes? And that's going to take a
We
little
are way off
while.
that.
Yeah, that's still going to take a
Yeah,
little while to build up, but the way you're now adjusting and adapting, they lose forward, you sort of adapt and do something else. Or you have a little bit of distraction and too much forward, you go, great, then I can use that energy. And all of that is because as the body is improving balance and gaining strength, it's constantly changing. So what worked yesterday doesn't always work in the next session, because even positive improvements, you still have a whole lot of changes going on internally. And now
mhm.
it's like you're kind of adapting as fast as the horses are changing.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely don't want to get on them until they're physically ready.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we'll just end up exactly where we were before. Do you know, that's definitely not
Yeah.
what I want to do.
And you'll know, like you'll be itching to get on. And when you're ready and they're ready, it's like you get on and go, holy crap, this is way better than I expected it to be. And
Yeah, yeah.
because essentially what you're doing on the ground and all the groundwork I do is as close of a simulation to riding for the person and the horse as I could possibly create. And so
Hmm.
when I did different types of groundwork in the past, it was like the groundwork was so different than the experience of riding that I found a lot of horses that I thought were prepared were really not prepared for being ridden. It was
Mm.
too different,
Yeah.
and we were asking the horses to figure it out. And so
Hmm.
long rein work is as close as you can get to riding from the ground. And so it's not
Hmm.
that big of a transition. When you start to get on, you're going to find you know how to do all the same things. And it'll be
Yeah.
a bit of a struggle to your balance and a bit of a struggle to their balance. But all
Hmm.
they have to do, and you have to learn to balance without your feet on the ground, and they have to learn to balance with weight on their back. That's really
Yeah.
the last piece of the puzzle once you get on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, this is just super exciting how well he's doing. And you're right,
Yeah.
he looks a lot less stiff by the end of 30 minutes than he did at the beginning. So he's
Hmm.
definitely working through whatever's creating that sort of stiffness in the beginning of the session.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so Tracy, I couldn't be happier. This is just
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's nice to see, and I'm so happy that he's kind of coming along.
Yeah. And things will
Yeah.
start to go, um, you'll start to see changes and improvements picking up a little bit of momentum as well.
Hmm.
Because the better both of, oh, that he made it the entire 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
he did.
that is fantastic. So at the very end, did he stop or did you ask him to stop?
No,
Oh,
I asked him to stop.
shoot.
Yeah.
I didn't want to reload. I'm just going to stop. Let me stop the share.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's all good.
Because we got to see the
Yeah.
whole
So
thing.
no, yeah, yeah. No, I asked him to stop there. That's where his lead rope is. So he stops very promptly when asked. Funny enough.
So, did you say
Yeah,
halt?
yeah. Exactly. Even sometimes if I'm talking to my daughter, we go, huh? Does that mean hold?
Yeah.
So yeah, funny. Yeah.
But
Yeah, no,
that's
I'm
a
really
massive,
happy with him.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah, very
massive
happy with his
improvement.
progress. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then how's Stitch doing?
What? Good. Definitely his behavior, his attitude is definitely improving. Like
Good.
he's not a crocodile anymore. Generally, I did go, I'm very, I need to be really conscious of my energy when I approach him. Like I went to take his rug off him the other morning and I was, getting ready for work and whatnot. So trying to zip around as I do. And it's like a crocodile went shoo, like right at my face. It didn't get
Ouch.
me, but I'm thinking, Jesus. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, you,
generally though, he's a whole lot better, really is. I just need to really just be very calm with my energy. And if he shows the slightest sign of defensiveness, I just have to wait. And but yeah, he's a lot better. On the in the work piece, it's just a slow road, isn't it? I think he's definitely like the other, I was watching one of your podcasts, not podcasts, YouTube videos. I can't remember the horse's name, but you were doing the long reins on the circle for about an hour. Well, I think you videoed it for maybe 20 minutes, but you said you were doing it for an hour.
hmm
We can't do one circle at the moment. So, oh my
yeah,
God, we're so far off an hour. But we're obviously doing serpentines and going around the straight lines, and we're doing some figure eights, like large circle figure eights.
excellent.
Um, I've actually just started him on that Prevocox as well.
Oh,
I
good. Yeah,
just
it
thought
wouldn't.
because yeah, I feel like we're at a little bit of a sticking point at the moment. Maybe I'm just being impatient. I don't know. I
Nope.
feel like with Stitch, it's like we've been doing the same thing for a while and it's not really progressing.
Yep.
So I thought I'll try them on the Prevocox and see if that helps. And I definitely think, um, well, it probably is, but when he's going around on the circle, the long reins on the circle, he just stops and looks at me as if, Mum, this is hurting. I can just see it. Like he's just saying, it's hurting, Mum.
Yes.
Whereas previously, when I'd lunge him, he would charge in at me at that same time. So things are better,
Right. Right.
a
And
whole
that
lot better.
was, yeah, it was his way of saying, knock it off. This isn't working for me,
Yeah,
was to get
exactly.
aggressive. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
And
obviously we're going very slow. He'll just look at me. He's trying to tell me that, well, I don't know. I don't read horse, but as in I think he's saying, something's hurting perhaps. So I thought I'll put him on the Prevocox and see how that goes.
yeah, and that I'm such a big proponent of using every tool available in the process
Mm.
of rehab. It's like we talked about, even with blankets or rugs. I go anything I can do because the process of changing skeletal coordination is a big ass deal, right? So you're
Yeah.
going to get some
Yeah.
soreness. You're going to be
Yeah.
working core muscles that might have become very weak, and it's hard work. Even at the walk, it's
Yeah.
very hard work to change that skeletal coordination. So I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of the Previcox, or we have
Mm-hmm.
Equiox here. Adding blankets, adding leg wraps, whatever I can do to
Yeah.
kind of help ease the process. Because the one thing that will take the most amount of time to work through, and you can work through it, it just takes longer if you have arthritis pain or muscle
Mm.
pain, or it's just such a big change that there's discomfort in the process of change. And what I love
Yeah.
about the Previcox is just sort of systemic. It just sort of eases wherever the aches and pains happen to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Pablo has just done fantastic on it. We've seen him
Yeah.
change at a little faster rate.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Stitch is looking really good. I think his bum shape is changing a little bit.
Good.
So something's going on. Yeah, so that's good. Um, And I've decided to, when the vet came out, because I had him tested for his insulin and what's the other thing? Cushing's.
Uh-huh.
So I had him tested for that. He was on the higher end of normal, so she wants to test him again at the beginning of autumn, see
Okay.
how we go. But she did say he's overweight, so I've taken out I normally put a hay roll in their paddock to graze constantly on, but
Mhm.
they just pig out on it and they just become a little bit chubby. So they they no longer have free access 24 hours a day. I've just put hay in their nets in the morning, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he looks like when he's slimmed down a little bit instead of a
Yeah.
big chubber. Yeah, because
The
I
other
agree. I
the other
overfeed a little
thing
bit.
too, if you're suspecting a little bit of metabolic issue and he's overweight, um,
Yeah.
that fat supplement, the Cool Stance Copra,
Oh, he's on that.
yep,
Yes.
that
Yep,
actually
yep.
does, like I would not cut that out of his food because when horses
No.
are fat, we tend to cut out the fat supplement. And
Yep.
the coconut in particular, but any fat supplement does help stabilize the hormones and the hormone. So it
Yes.
helps fat horses lose weight, but it sounds like he's
Yes.
just getting way too
Too
much hay.
much. It's just too much hay. It just pigs out all day long. Actually, I listened to, I can't remember the lady's name, so I'm shocking with names, but she was a nutritionist. It's on
Yeah,
one of your
Stephanie.
podcasts.
Hmm.
And after listening to that, I mean, they're already on copra, but I kept them on it. But I also we've got two little, well, you've probably seen them in the paddock, two little minis,
Uh-huh.
and they get very fat. So I've actually included it in their diet, and I think they're losing weight.
Yeah, it actually, you'll see a
Yeah,
weight
like
loss
wow.
pretty rapidly, which is so,
Yeah.
it's very counterintuitive to take the little chubby
Yes.
horses and give them the fat supplement. But
Yeah. You'd
I
never think to do it, would you?
no, and I would cut back, like, I cut back on either the amount of pellets or hay cubes or hay if they need to lose
Yeah.
weight, but I never cut back their fat supplement or vitamins and minerals. And then
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
seems to just keep everything in balance. And Stephanie
Mm.
recommends hay 24/7, but I go, some horses, it's just too much. And I don't,
They
it's
just
not,
don't stop.
yeah, it's not to
Yeah.
starve them. Like I make sure they never
No.
go more than a couple hours without hay, but I go
Yeah.
just clean up what you have and take a break, and you can have more food in another hour or two.
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard this on what podcast it was, but there was some research around, it could have even been one of yours, can't remember, around how you can feed them like 80% of their hay during the day and 20% at night. And it's actually it's not too detrimental to their health if they don't constantly eat through the night.
Oh,
They can have gaps through the night because something about the stomach. I now I've forgotten the key part of it, actually, why it doesn't work. Anyway, there's a paper on it somewhere
well, I go,
that
horses
talks
do
about,
sleep. They do take
yeah,
naps and they do sleep.
yeah,
And what
yeah,
I noticed, the way I sort of adjust my hay ration for all the horses was I noticed when my pasture is nice and lush and green in the summer and I have horses on
hmm,
it, they go out and munch nonstop until about noon. They go out maybe at 7 and then they eat till about noon and then they go and have a nap. And then
yeah,
they go out and graze some more and then they go have another nap. So even when all
hmm,
that food's available, they usually
yeah,
go and have a rest.
yeah,
So they're
yeah.
not eating nonstop.
No, exactly. Yep, yep. Yeah, so that was interesting. So I do that now. They can have pretty well as much, well, I fill up their hay nets quite full during the day so they don't run out during the day, but I limit them at night time.
Hmm.
They pretty well have a biscuit each at night. So yeah, see how we go.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I
Yes.
couldn't be happier with Pablo, and it'll be interesting to see if putting stitch on Previcox helps. Because I think you're
Yeah.
right.
So
He just looks like he's really into what you're doing with him. He looks like he's
yeah, yeah,
concentrating a lot.
yeah,
Um, but the distraction could be because he's still not comfortable, and the loss of forward is definitely not comfortable. So
yeah,
he's struggling
yeah,
on circles to stay level on a circle, which has to do with something going on between the lumbar, sacrum, pelvis, hip joint, somewhere in there.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think I might have mentioned to you before, but even in the paddock, he stands like a giraffe often, like looking at everything. And I kind of wonder, like too hypervigilant. So I wonder if it is pain related.
It
Like,
can be because just like us, when we're sick or if we're injured or if we're in pain,
mm,
we become a little bit hyper aware. Like if we go into
mm,
the, like we just don't want to be around a lot of people. We want to hole up at home. But when we
mm,
know we feel vulnerable in that way, don't feel good,
yeah,
that
yeah,
hypervigilance can be part of that,
mm,
it kind of expressing that they don't feel good.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, yes,
Well,
hopefully this
good.
will help him. Yeah. So no, we're ticking along.
That is excellent. Any
Yeah.
final questions or
No, no, all good.
comments?
Thank you very much.
Because
Yeah.
this is
I'll
this is just a great report card. So let me
Yay, we're
stop the
gonna know.
record. Hang on.